Welcome to the Growlers and Gremlins podcast, an alcoholic adventure in cryptids, paranormal, and the occult. Coming to you weekly from the heartland of America.
Welcome to Growlers and Gremlins. I'm John, and with me on the right I have...
Brian, not dead and not in charge.
And...
Jason, the analyst and favorite host.
And our special guest this week...
Alecia.
Yeah, and our beer of the week this week from Quaff On Brewing Company is 6 Foot Strawberry Blonde, which is a, well, blonde ale with strawberry.
Crack her open.
Or as the can says, malt beverage with natural flavor and certified color.
Does it always come in a can?
No, usually it's in bottles.
It doesn't taste the same in the can.
I never had it in a can. I've only had this in bottles in the past. But no beer tastes the same in a can.
Tastes like vomit
Yeah, that's got a bad taste to it.
in the can. I like it in the bottle.
I've never had it either way. It just has a bad taste.
Tastes about the same to me.
Strawberries and cream.
Just a little less glassy, but
There you go, John.
no, I'm good.
We've
I
already
have my own.
John, we've shared a drink before.
No.
You can trust me now.
I've got my own.
I don't know how to feel about this.
I like it. It tastes like strawberry wafers.
Ooh, yeah, it does.
I think it's good. I've bought this beer a lot in the past. Just because it tastes like strawberry wafers, and I love those. You guys really don't like it?
No, not at all. I don't taste anything.
Like,
It
it's
just has-
I
alright.
thought I was saving the best for last year.
Just, I don't know. The can tastes different to me.
It tastes like nothing with a hint of strawberry.
Yeah, I mean, because it's just a blonde ale.
But I mean, like
With
when
strawberry.
you first put the beer in your mouth, normally there's a flavor. It's unremarkable
The strawberries
with
in
an
the middle.
aftertaste of strawberry.
See, for me, the strawberry's in the middle. I don't really have much aftertaste from it or much when it hits my mouth. But then, like, in the middle of, like, the move it back to swallow it process, that's where, like,
I don't know.
I get the
I don't-
strawberry as it goes across the tongue.
I wouldn't choose to drink it, but I don't hate it, so whatever.
Probably be better for you guys if we'd poured these out into glasses.
Yeah, maybe
We
so.
do
rather than
have-
drinking them out of a can.
We do have the logo glasses we could be using.
I'm not going to drink the rest of that anyway, so it doesn't matter.
But, anyway, topic this week is actually brought to us by our guest, as usual.
Yeah, Juji.
So, what do you got?
Okay. Well, I'm going to talk about disappearances in Smoky Mountain National Park. So, got a lot here. I'm going to try to read the majority of it. We'll see. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, you're all right.
Okay. Okay. Let me skip over some of this. Okay. The most well-known vanishing is the disappearance of 6-year-old Dennis Martin. On June 14th, 1969, the boy's family was out on a camping and hiking trip they took every year in the Great Smoky Mountains. On this day, the family had stopped off at a grassy mountain highland meadow and popular stop-off point along the Appalachian Trail known as Spence Field. As the adults sat out on the grass chatting, Dennis, his brother, and 2 other boys on the trip thought it would be amusing to play a prank on their parents. They decided that they would split up, go out into the woods, and then simultaneously jump out from different directions to startle the adults in what was meant to just be harmless fun.
The Parent Trap.
Yep. 3 of the boys went one way, and Dennis, who was the youngest, went the other. The reason he had been chosen to be on his own was that he was wearing a highly visible bright red shirt. Just as planned, the 3 older boys jumped out and scared the adults. But then the men asked where Dennis was. Since the other boys had seen him just a few minutes earlier, they assumed that he had merely missed his cue, and so they waited for him to jump out of the trees as well, but he never appeared. Dennis's father, Bill Martin, went out to get his son, expecting that he would be there hiding in the bushes as he had been instructed, but an immediate search of the area showed no signs of the boy, and calls into the woods went unanswered. Increasingly worried, Bill and Dennis's grandfather, Clyde Martin, hiked out in different directions farther and farther from the place where the boy had last been seen, and still nothing was found. Park rangers were notified and a search was launched that would last until nightfall, when heavy rain began to come down along with thunder, which hampered efforts to find the boy, and the search was called off until the following day, with still no trace of where Dennis had gone off to. Just hours after Dennis had gone missing, a family named the Keys reported that they had been hiking around 6 miles from Spence Field when they heard a boy's scream. The son also claimed to have seen movement in a bush, which he at first thought to be a bear, but turned out to be a man walking in the woods with something apparently slung over his shoulder. As spooky as this may seem, authorities determined that the location was too far from Spence Field to have possibly had anything to do with Dennis within the time frame of events. In the following days, the search efforts would quickly grow in size to hundreds of people scouring the area, including park rangers, locals, volunteers, the FBI, National Guard, and even Green Berets. And psychics.
And psychics.
And psychics.
Hey, John, I just want you to hear. The FBI, Green Berets, and National Guard were all looking for this one
I know.
kid.
That's when you were talking about that
What year
earlier.
was this? What year was this?
19, where did I write it? 69.
See, that's so much later.
No.
So much
not.
later.
Okay. Anyway,
This is in a national park, too.
yeah. There was bloodhounds, helicopters, etc. Meanwhile, the news of the disappearance had started making major headlines, since Dennis was described as a robust, healthy boy with plenty of hiking.
Me and Brian both thought in our heads to ourselves, well, I'm a robust boy.
He's a robust, healthy
We
boy.
both started laughing. 'Cause,
You're not robust boys.
immediately, I'm a robust boy.
Okay. Anyway, you're ruining my
Sorry.
detailed story here.
Sorry.
Creepy vibes.
Yeah. Okay. So, okay. He had plenty of hiking experience. It was thought that he would be alive and would be found in short order. But continuing heavy rains flooding roads as well as thick fogs made efforts difficult. For their part, Dennis' parents posted a hefty reward for any information leading to finding their son. As the weeks went by, hope that the missing boy had survived dwindled. A few possible traces of the boy turned up in the form of small footprints and a pair of boys' underwear found in the woods near Spence Field. But it was determined that the possibility that the footprints were linked to Dennis was remote, and Dennis's mother said the underwear did not belong to her son. The search would stretch on for months with no trace of the boy found, although the manpower behind efforts had withered away considerably, and it was largely assumed by frustrated authorities that he was likely dead. Rumors and theories swirled as to what could have become of Dennis Martin. One idea was that he had been kidnapped, but no one could figure out such a motive for such thing, nor who could have orchestrated it with such perfect timing. He also may have gotten lost, but it seems odd considering he was meant to wait right near the field and pop out to surprise the adults. Why would he have wandered off, and why wouldn't he leave any tracks or indeed any sign of where he had gone? Indeed, why wouldn't he have called out for help? Yet another theory was that he might have been suddenly attacked and dragged off by some wild animal. But again, why hadn't he called out for help, and where were the tracks? In the end, Dennis Martin was never found, and absolutely no trace of him has ever turned up. His odd case remains open to this day. In the book Missing 411, an interview with author Dwight McCarter, who is the author of Lost, a Ranger's Journal of Search and Rescue, had a strange tale to tell about Martin's case, or about the Martin case. McCarter claimed that during the search for Dennis, the Special Forces units that had been called in barely communicated at all with authorities, rangers, or civilian searchers, instead working on their own as if they had their own agenda, and that they had been heavily armed as if expecting something to happen. Another weird detail is that the lead FBI investigator on the case, Agent Jim Reich, later committed suicide for unknown reasons, which might not have anything to do with that, but...
Well, we know if somebody dies after an event, they're included in the death count of that event.
Don't go there.
But yeah, so that's the first one I have. I have a couple of different ones, but I'll go on if no one has anything to
the
say.
creepiest thing about that so far to me is that, well, one, somebody saw a man who seemed to be walking with something slung over his shoulder after hearing a little boy scream. That's pretty creepy.
I think it was the kid, though, of that other family that saw that.
But, yeah.
It was.
But also, you said they found little boys' underwear in the woods? Mm-hmm. Even if they weren't Dennis Martin's, what's going on there?
Yeah.
Why was there little boys' underwear in the woods?
Yeah.
You never accidentally sharded your pants and just threw your underwear out in the woods?
No.
No.
You wear them bad boys.
No, you just drop trow real fast and blow your ass out in the woods. Who's going to care? I'd rather shit on the floor than fucking...
I just don't see a situation where a little kid's out there alone poops their pants, ditches their underwear. Plus, it didn't say they were poopy underwear. It just said underwear.
They left
Yes.
that little
Like, yeah,
detail
sure.
out.
On the camping trip, the coming soon Growlers and Gremlins camping trip,
You shouldn't have brought it
one
up
of
yet.
us will probably crap our pants and have to ditch some underwear because
No, it's 24 hours at most.
at some point, though, each of us will probably have to poop.
I can hold in poo for days, dude.
That's gross. Yeah.
Dude, I would go to a week-long scout camp and poo
Wait.
3 times.
I plan on building a bathroom.
He can hold his poop in for days, but missed the podcast because he couldn't stop shitting.
Well, that was food poisoning. And the flu.
Oh.
No, it wasn't food poisoning. That was the flu.
It changes every time he tells us.
No,
It was the goof.
it wasn't the coof. I had the flu.
Okay. Anyway.
Moving on. Story number 2.
Story number 2. On October 8th, 1976, a 16-year-old high school sophomore from Knoxville named Trenny Lynn Gibson. That's a weird name.
What's the ethnicity of this student?
I think she was just white.
Oh.
You know,
I'm going to say Trini. Just sounded-
Tranny. I never heard that before. Anyway, she was on a field trip to the national park along with 40 of her classmates. The students were hiking from the parking area towards a spot called Andrews Bald and had separated into smaller groups based on how fast they could walk during the hike. It was a well-traveled route, yet at some point during the hike at around 3 p.m. in an area just below Klingman's Dome, it was noticed that Gibson was no longer with her group and had somehow become separated from them or had wandered off. It was odd considering that she had been with other people and there had been groups of students both in front of them and behind them, as well as other hikers who had not seen her actually go off on her own. Additionally, the area is very popular with hikers. It's far from remote. Okay. And there are a lot of people around, yet no one had seen Gibson anywhere. Despite an intensive search, no sign of Trenny Gibson was ever found. She simply vanished right under everyone's noses. So that was just a short little one of someone just going missing.
Shorty.
Another one is, on September 25th, 1981, 58-year-old Thelma Melton, often called Polly by her friends, was hiking with 2 of her friends near the Deep Creek campground. It was an easy trail that Melton had been hiking for 20 years, so she knew the lay of the land intimately. Yet, as they were hiking at a leisurely pace, she rounded a bend in front of her friends and seemingly stepped off the face of the earth. Her friends searched the area where Melton had just been moments before, but could find no sign of where she had gone. Making the whole scene seem even more bizarre was that Melton was overweight and suffered from high blood pressure and nausea, for which she took medication.
Bitch just fell in a hole.
I think what they're concerned with is that she's overweight and has high blood pressure. How far could she have possibly gotten without
And
them finding
supposedly
her?
they weren't that far from her, and she just turned around a corner and vanished. So where'd she go?
Bitch fell in a hole.
Or down a face.
An invisible.
Well, I mean, the hole would be full, so.
You saying her friends stepped on her? I think we just saw a movie about people that just disappear into the woods.
Yeah.
And it was...
Yeah. I'll keep going. Anyway, her friends had playfully been teasing her about how slow her pace was not long before she vanished.
Keep up, fatty.
Additionally, her medical condition had gotten her barred from driving at the time, and she had no keys.
What?
Wait, how fat was she? It says she was overweight and had high blood pressure.
Well,
yet she's an experienced hiker who's been hiking for 20 years, but she's so overweight she can't drive?
Well, okay.
Well, no,
what were
her medical condition doesn't mean her weight.
She was overweight, had high blood pressure, and nausea, for which she took medication. But I don't know. I don't know why exactly.
It could just be she could have thrown up at any time and would have distracted her from driving.
That
Doesn't
could be.
distract me.
But anyway,
Because you are inhuman.
the point of it is that she didn't have a car. She had no keys with her because she couldn't drive. Again, a massive search was launched, but no sign of Melton could be found. Authorities were unable to even get a good set of tracks to follow, which would have made things easier considering Melton's left shoe had apparently had a noticeable crack in the sole, which would have made her tracks distinguishable and easy to differentiate from those of other hikers. No trace of Polly Melton has ever been found, and she remains missing.
Wouldn't the depth of the tracks also helped?
Perhaps.
Yeah, because she's fat.
You guys are so mean. I knew, and I put that in there. It was gonna be all about her weight.
You say she's overweight, and so it's like, well, that she couldn't have gotten that far because she's overweight. But then the next thing
What
is
her friends
her medical condition prevented her from driving. And so I think about like all the 600-pounders on my 600-pound life who like can't drive because they can't fit.
Yeah. All right. Anyway, there are other strange disappearances in the mountains that have been even more recent. In 2008, 51-year-old Michael Heron, I think that's how you say his name, waved goodbye to his family and went out in his four-wheel drive truck to some forest land near their home in Blount County, Tennessee. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Which lies in Great Smoky Mountains National Park. When the man did not return home as scheduled, a search was conducted and Heron's truck was found in a clearing with the ignition oddly still turned to the on position, and the mystery would only deepen from there. In the vicinity of the truck, there was no trace what could have happened to him. There was no footprints. There was no trail through dense underbrush that could have been used to go off on his own. Additionally, dogs could not pick up a scent, and authorities could find no torn bits of clothing, no blood, tissue, bones, any sign of a struggle. No sign that he had been there at all.
That's another thing that like is interesting because like she and I watched a documentary about like people that go missing and stuff. And it's a pretty common thing that, like, with people that go missing in places like this...
National parks, specifically.
National parks, dogs cannot find a scent of these people. It's as if they just weren't there.
Well, I would think part of the issue with the national park is you have so many people in and out. That's too many scents.
Yeah.
And especially with
I don't know.
Smoky Mountain, because it's the most visited in the U.S.
Yeah.
But then again, they can track people in urban environments, and that's way more people.
Yeah.
So
Exactly, because, like, dogs are very good.
Stupid.
So, like, if they can't find a scent, the person just wasn't there, you know?
Yeah. Anyway, it was as if he had just spontaneously ceased to exist. A search involved hundreds of volunteers and police officers, which faced heavy rains that moved in and threatened to erase any evidence there might be to find. None was ever found, and Heron seems to have vanished into thin air. Another one is in March of 2012. A 24-year-old man named Derek Luking failed to turn up for work, and calls to his cell phone went unanswered. 2 days later, it was determined that Derek had checked out of the Microtel Inn and Suites in Cherokee, North Carolina, near the Great Smoky Mountains National Park on March 17th, with surveillance video of him wearing a backpack to prove it. The video footage would be the last time anyone would ever see Derek Luking. The family went out looking for him that same day and managed to locate Derek's car by chance in the parking lot of a nature area called Newfound Gap. Authorities found in the abandoned car an impressive wealth of newly purchased survival gear, including a pack axe, compass, lamp, pocket knife, knife sharpener, tent, sleeping bag, black parachute cord, granola bars, and a survival belt containing a multi-tool flashlight and fire starter rod. There was also found in the car pages from a military survival manual and Liu King's wallet and cash. He had obviously been well prepared for a trip into the wilderness, but strangely, he had not taken any of his stuff with him. Another eerie clue was a note that Liu King had left behind in the car that simply said, "Don't try to follow me."
That sounds like a hit.
A hit? Or
That sounds like a hit job. Like, they put all this stuff there, like his cover, like, oh, he bought all this camping gear, but then this, like, cryptic note of, "Don't try to follow me."
Or it could have been, someone, like, he didn't want people to stop him from, doing something to himself. And so he's like, he buys all this stuff so it looks realistic that he's going camping. And then, no, don't look for me.
He Aokigahara himself.
Did they ever find a body for that one, or just missing?
I think this one he's just missing. Let me
Okay.
read on here. There's a little bit more. Despite the note, authorities did try to follow him, obviously. An intensive search was launched of the area, and rangers interviewed campers and hikers in the vicinity on whether they had seen Liu King, but no one had. It was strange since it had been a sunny and clear Saturday in the area full of people engaged in outdoor activities, yet no one could recall seeing the missing man, leading authorities to speculate that he may have gone off trail and gotten lost, but they could not figure out why he would have done that minus all of his new equipment. This was worrying because although the trail itself was well traveled, off-trail led into thick wilderness, decreasing Liu King's chances for survival. Authorities unsuccessfully continued their search and were baffled as to why he would have gone out on his own without his equipment and why he had gone out to the park to begin with. Derek's family claimed that he had been a big fan of the TV show Man vs. Wild. This led authorities to speculate that he may have been trying to emulate Grills, and this could have been why he had suddenly decided to leave his own equipment behind to make things more challenging, like in the show. However, according to his family, Derek was not himself particularly experienced with the outdoors, so he may have perished in his efforts.
If you want to simulate Bear Grylls, stay home and drink your piss.
No, doesn't he, like, shove it up his ass at one point, too?
What?
Like, no.
I'm gonna go with-
He was on a raft, and there was water that a bird had shit in. And he's like, I can't drink this, so I'll shove it up my ass and get hydrated that way.
Oh, yeah, hydration through
Enema.
booty hole. Some people drink coffee that way.
Yeah,
Coffee enema.
gross. Anyway,
It's going to all end up in the toilet anyway, might as well.
another theory is that Derek went off to commit suicide. The family stated that the day he disappeared was the 1-year anniversary of the death of his grandfather, with whom he had been close, so maybe he had gone off with no intention of coming back. The problem with this idea is if he was planning to kill himself, why go through all the effort to buy so much new survival gear? Other ideas include that he went out to scout the trail, planning to come back for his gear and somehow getting lost on the way, or that he was attacked by a wild animal or kidnapped. Or a feral mountain man.
The other thing, though, when they say, like, oh, why would he have bothered to buy all the gear? Well, what does it matter to him if he's not, he doesn't need his money?
If you're going to die, might as well die with debt.
Mm-hmm.
That's true. Derek Liu King remains missing without a trace to this day.
What year was this? Because, like,
This one was in
Bear Grylls is pretty recent stuff.
2012.
Oh.
So this one's more recent. Okay. Another recent disappearance is also in its own way rather strange, as the person in this case keeps popping up in unconfirmed sightings, like some sort of cryptid. On June 5th, 2014, a man who would later be identified as Paul Parr walked. Sorry.
His name, Papa Parwalk?
Paul Parr walked into the...
Paul Parr?
Yeah.
Okay.
Into the Walasi Interpretive Center. I don't know how to say that either. And offered $200 to the clerk if she would watch his car for him. When the clerk asked how long he'd be gone, the man replied that he would be away for 4 to 6 months. And so begins the bizarre tale of Mr. Parr. Which is weird. How'd you go up to like a random person and be like, watch my car for a couple of months for $200?
It's no different than the neighbor kids saying, "Hey, can I go to your bar to go to the, or can I borrow your car to go to the redneck rave?"
Yeah, that was...
What?
No, you can't.
Wait, did your old neighbors ask
He
you
was
that?
like
Yeah.
16 at the time,
He was
too.
young at the time, but like he didn't get it that like you don't just go to somebody and ask to borrow their car for a weekend to go to a party. And I was like, no, you can't. And then like my other neighbor was like, yeah, he asked me to. He was just desperate to get to this party that his parents, I think, said, no, you're not going to that. You're not using one of our cars to go there. So he was like, I'll find my own car.
Get a bike. Call a friend.
It was up in like, it was far away.
Uber.
Yeah.
Okay, a few days after this strange meeting, some hikers came across a backpack lying right in the middle of the trail as it was carefully placed there. Only a quarter of a mile from the center, the pack looked like it hadn't been moved for a while and it was turned over to the authorities. Inside of the pack found an array of gear including hiking boots, tent, sleeping bag, as well as a GPS system, a GoPro camera, and $3,000 in cash. There was also a wallet with the man's ID card, which identified him as a 50-year-old construction worker, Paul Parr. An interview with Parr's girlfriend suggested that the man had been having some mental health issues, and she also told them that he had been musing about taking a sabbatical. She also said that he had withdrawn $5,000 shortly before he'd gone missing. Authorities began putting up flyers asking for any information on Paul's whereabouts and warning hikers not to approach him that he might be suicidal. Over the next few days, reports began to trickle in from hikers who claimed to have come across a man hiking by himself wearing quite the inappropriate hiking attire. He was wearing khaki shorts, a t-shirt, and flip-flops. And he slept inside of a plastic bag.
I mean, okay, so sleeping inside of a plastic bag is not that abnormal for a hiker. And the flip-flop things,
Well,
it just sounds like he's just like
I think it's
some douche, not from the area,
I think
going
it's
to
just
hike the
weird
trails.
because they found this backpack that had his ID and
Yeah, that-
stuff in it. Like, what happened there? But, you know. Those who talked to him said that the strange man told them he was planning to hike 2,000 miles north to Mount Katahdin in Maine. The man was thought to be Parr, and he was spotted several times along different stretches of the Appalachian Trail. One witness even claimed to have shared his shelter with him, and claimed that Paul often read the New Testament and spoke of finding God in the pathway of the mountains. Other witnesses also spoke of him rambling about religion. Authorities began searching all along the trail where Parr had been sighted, interviewing hikers, campers, hostels, and national park employees, but the man remained elusive. In the meantime, sightings kept coming in. On June 17th, he was spotted 100 miles from where he had started at Westher Bald in the Great Smoky Mountain National Park. In this case, the witness claimed to have talked with Parr for several hours, and that he had been carrying a black duffel bag and some pots. Even now, long after his 4 to 6 month goal, occasional sightings of the wayward man pop up with a more recent account stating that he is barefoot and has achieved somewhat of almost mythical celebrity status among the hiking community on the Appalachian Trail. The whole case is a strange one. Why did he leave all of his gear behind, along with hiking boots, and venture out in flip-flops and a t-shirt? Why did he even go to begin with? Where did he go? No one knows. It is unclear of what has become of Paul Parr, or if he ever made it to his destination. Despite the ongoing sightings, authorities have never been able to actually locate Parr, and he remains officially missing.
That sounds to me like a guy who, in the first place, he intended to disappear and like live off the grid. I mean, he withdrew $5,000 in cash. He planned to try to live off the land, live in the woods, only go into towns if necessary to buy things, use cash only so you're untraceable. But then the other thing is that was left behind. And the idea I've got from this guy is that, they said he would be often reading the New Testament and like talking about religion and stuff. I think this guy read a book that I recently read.
Oh my God.
There's a book, it's called Wild at Heart by John Eldredge, and it's about like men finding their soul, like finding themselves in the wilderness, and how like historically that's always been a thing, that you go out and, find yourself out in the wild.
Is this how this camping trip bullshit got started?
Oh, yeah.
Ah, fuck you.
And that's why I told you, I said this isn't so much, the camping trip's not so much about a competition between us for the podcast. It's more just a test for myself. And I think he got out there and he realized, you know what? This is where I'm supposed to be. I don't even need any of this stuff, and ditched the cash, ditched everything, and just lives off the land out in the mountains now.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Could be. Okay, so this one, I believe is a little bit different because I think they find her body.
Dying it.
Dying it? Okay. While many of these baffling disappearances remain unsolved, some missing persons cases in the region reach tragic conclusions while even then still retaining an air of mystery. One widely reported case is that of 62-year-old Jenny Bennett. The avid writer, hiker, and outdoors woman was extremely experienced in the outdoors and was known for her vast, intimate knowledge of the Great Smoky Mountain National Park, having conquered even some of the most inaccessible areas. She was also known for being extremely determined and tenacious. On June 1st, 2015, Bennett failed to make an appointment with movers who were to help her relocate from North Carolina to Vermont in order to be closer to her sister. For 6 days, Bennett could not be located and was declared missing by authorities. On June 8th, Bennett's abandoned car was found at the Porters Creek trailhead, and the next morning her body was found in the creek near a remote campsite in the green rear area of the park. It was surmised.
Surmised.
Oh, surmised. I'm an idiot. That she had planned to take one last hike along Porters Creek, an area she knew very well and often frequented before her move. It was all a little bizarre because Bennett knew the area so well and it should have been a routine hike. The area of the Porters Creek Trail where the body was found was furthermore considered to be a relatively tame area, even boring by hiker standards, compared to what the woman had braved on many occasions before. It also could not be determined at first what the cause of death was. She had been found sitting upright against a rock in shallow water, as if she had simply reclined there to rest, and although she had minor bruises consistent with the fall, there was no apparent sign of serious injury. The only thing authorities could do was rule out being attacked by a predator and foul play. It would be another 3 months before autopsy reports would finally be released and determine the cause of death. The coroner had concluded that Jenny Bennett's injuries had indeed not been life-threatening, and that she had ultimately died of environmental hypothermia, brought about by her partial immersion in and exposure to the frigid water of the creek, in combination with a toxic level of antihistamines and sleep aid, although it cannot be determined if the overdose was intentional. Friends and family were also skeptical that she would want to commit suicide, as she seemed well adjusted and looking forward to her coming move and further hikes she wanted to embark on. In the end, the details behind Bennett's death are still murky, and the case still largely remains unresolved. If Bennett did indeed commit suicide, then it would fit in with the statistics that show national parks seem to draw on those who wish to end their own lives. A 2010 report was released by the CDC that had tracked the suicide rate in 84 national parks from 2003 to 2009. It was found that there had been a total of 194 suicides along with 92 unsuccessful attempts, and that mostly these were carried out with firearms, jumping off from high places, or drug overdose. Does this lie at the heart of these mysterious disappearances? Are these people going off to erase themselves while intentionally making it so they were never found? The Great Smoky Mountains are not even the only major national park where these vanishings have occurred. It seems that these wild places have a habit of swallowing up people without a trace, many of whom were experienced in the outdoors and often under decidedly bizarre circumstances.
You know what that's got me thinking about is what I talked about a few weeks ago. Cuyahoga Valley National Park. And you were talking about maybe there's something supernatural there. And like the draw that she's talking about, like of people constantly going to national parks to like end their lives or disappear or whatever. What if certain lands become national parks as a way of the federal government trying to take control of these areas because they know about something supernatural?
Because there's something there.
There's something there. There's something supernatural. There's some kind of cryptid. There's something we don't know about that they're trying to protect people from by regulating the people, the amount of people that go there, not letting people live in these lands because you can't live inside a national park.
Right.
You know? So maybe in like Helltown, Ohio, Cuyahoga Valley National Park, the government came in and like got everybody out real quick. Didn't bother to actually designate it a national park for 25 years. You know, there's just stuff all over the country and of like certain areas drawing people, just like we said earlier, Aokigahara in Japan. That's a national forest there. People are constantly going there to end their lives. And maybe there's some weird supernatural force or some kind of activity going on in these areas, and they're becoming national parks in order to try and protect people from living in these places.
I wonder what the overlap between national parks and lands of indigenous people is.
Almost every national park in this country was once land occupied by indigenous peoples. Almost every single one of them.
Could say almost every major city was also
fucking
one.
Moron. Yeah, because everything was...
No, what I mean is not just that, like, yeah, all of it was owned by indigenous people. The whole country was technically. But no, a lot of the lands that are national parks now were specifically like sites that they had settled and lived on, not just like, oh, this is our territory.
Right.
You know? So maybe like Cuyahoga Valley, curse on the land.
I mean, that curse could have come from the fucking massacre that happened there, too. An American militia killed 92 Indians because that used to be a warpath for native tribes.
What was this specific instance with 92 people?
1782, an American militia massacred a bunch of, I think they were the Lapney Indians in the valley because it was a... Like
do you mean the Lenape? Like
Lenape.
Cuyahoga Valley?
Yeah. There was that, 92 Lenape, or whatever the fucks. They got killed by American militiamen, because they were either, I didn't read it enough to know, but that was like, the violence came to a head in the area, and that's what the end result was.
See, I thought you were referring to, like, this was in one of the Dakotas, or maybe Montana, where the federal government went in and just slaughtered an entire community of Native Americans to get them off land that they wanted. And this was more recent, though, than what he's talking about. This was like the 1800s. It was... What was that?
No idea. I'm talking about the guys at the Cuyahoga.
Yeah, the Lenape.
So you're saying federal parks, not necessarily state parks.
Yeah, national parks.
National
federal.
parks, not federal. Yeah, whatever.
But I don't know. I thought the Smoky Mountains specifically just interests me.
We've been there multiple times.
No, because I've heard stories about feral mountain men, and I just really want to believe that there's wild men living out there in the mountains that snatch up, little kids, or elderly because it's easier. And,
yeah, what she means by like feral mountain men is not just like, backwoods, Appalachian, moonshiners, that kind of thing. These are like literally feral people that are taking people and eating them.
Good old cannibals.
Yeah, just like crazy
American
people.
Cannibals.
Some H.P. Lovecraft at the Mountains of Madness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like that movie that we watched the other night.
Yeah. Wrong Turn.
Yeah.
Oh, that movie was terrible. And
Well,
those
the
people
movie was
weren't even
terrible.
feral, though. They
I
were
know.
very civilized.
But even
and...
who knows? Could have been something like that. But I don't know. That movie, I feel like it could have been really good.
In the woods.
But they just
Yeah, if you weren't constantly rooting for the main characters to die.
Yeah.
That just comes with old age. You stop caring about the...
It was another level of idiocy. Like, these people were so inept. Like, I think I told you about the scene where they're walking along a trail and a log comes rolling down the hill. So rather than just move forward or back to get away from it, they go running down the hill to try and outrun it.
I mean, I guess if you have no understanding of physics, you're going to expect, the log may just suddenly turn directions. You gotta hope.
It was ridiculous. It was so bad. But,
I mean, I always like the idea of the snatchers that are out there.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, the
it's
snatcher,
not an idea to like. It's terrifying, but it's interesting.
No, not like the human snatchers. I'm talking like the supernatural.
Oh,
like you take your eyes
just
off
make
of
you
that,
vanish.
You are gone.
Yeah.
In a second.
And that's like.
Oh, you mean like weeping angels
What's that?
Sure.
from Doctor Who?
Oh, well, no. There's like we watched this whole thing called like Missing 411. There's this guy who's like, he's a former police officer and like something else. He's a detective. He's been going around the country for years just investigating like these strange disappearances that are in national parks. And some of them are just so weird they don't make any sense. Like, people will just completely vanish, but it's always like there's certain factors involved. Like, dogs can't get a scent of the person. There's been a weather event recently.
Weather event, always by water.
Yeah, it's always by water. And if a body is ever found, it's in really strange circumstances. Like, there was one woman who was like found in the fetal position in a river naked. And it was like,
weather
what?
event to me either is supernatural or cosmological. From outer space or some sort of cosmic energy.
Yeah.
Microwave. You're up high on a mountain, you get fried from cosmic radiation. Maybe
like there was one guy in Montana who was out with his friends just going on a hunting trip in an area where they always would hunt. He went off to go get something from one of his stashes that he had out there and basically just kept on going. Never.
Yeah, he went, instead of going like...
He was supposed to turn left at this one trail that he would know and recognize, but he just kept going for miles and miles and miles. And like, they didn't find any trace of him for 9 months?
Yeah, it was quite a while.
And then they found like where there was a fire and there was like an energy drink or something that like he drank and his boots just set down like he took them off. And then like 2 years after his disappearance, they find his backpack just nicely leaned up against a tree on someone's property miles away from where they'd found his boots. And this was the winter when he disappeared. And then like just not too long after that, they found his body like decomposed to the point of a skeleton, like it had been exposed to the environment for years, right near where his backpack was that looked like it had just been freshly set down. It's always just some weird, mysterious circumstances if they ever do find a body with these people.
Okay, so here's my thought. A parasite that just removes the survival instinct. Because there's already parasites that affect human beings found in the fecal material of cats that will
toxoplasmosis.
that will influence people to want to be around cats. Well, if there was something like that just removed survival instinct to where you just stop trying, you stop.
Well, that doesn't stop your reasoning.
The weirdest thing about that guy is the timeline of it. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, the timeline.
His backpack looks freshly set by this tree with like food in it and stuff, and yet there's his body decomposed as if it has been dead for years.
Where was his body at? Was it back by his boots?
No, it was near his backpack.
It was by the backpack, okay.
And
yeah, because you would think if it had been there for 2 years or so, like weathering,
it wouldn't
to that
look
backpack.
fresh, like he'd been using it and just set it down, and there was still food in it that he could have been eating, but it had been so long at that point, and it's like, well, how did it get there? And like one of the things too that'll make you forget survival instinct is hypothermia. Because people that are freezing to death will take off their clothes, which makes no sense survival instinct wise, but.
It's the same thing with oxygen deprivation. Like that's why they tell you to put on your mask before putting it on for a child.
Uh-huh.
Because if you start to get oxygen deprivation, you will just
Forget
stop.
to even
you
put
won't.
yours on.
Yeah, like there's a video I was watching where the guy, they're telling him you need to put your mask on or you're going to die, and he's just laughing at them.
That's what they tell me when I go into stores. Funny.
It is. It's a little fun.
Watch, by the time this episode comes out, there will be a new strain that is.
Oh, of course there
Then we
will
will,
be.
still have to
Always
wear
be
these
a new
things.
strain.
It's flammable though, so your mask isn't going to help. You breathe fire with this strain, so no mask is going to help you.
So this will be the first week of April. This one comes out. So
We'll be just past a year since the lockdown started.
would you like to speak as if you want to be heard? Because I keep adjusting.
We'll be
your
just past a year after the lockdown started at the time of this episode. And the jokes about breathing fire from COVID-30.
Yeah.
COVID-30.
Ew.
Jesus.
Technically, if we had another one, it'd be COVID-21 now.
Yeah.
Yeah, whatever.
Well, I mean, we never had COVID-20.
I mean, they could have called one of the new strains COVID-20, but COVID-19 stuck as like the term, you know?
I think it has to
'Cause,
be a
like,
new
they didn't
strain
want us-
discovered.
Well, for
Right.
some reason, it
I don't
was
know.
like frowned upon after a while to call it coronavirus. You weren't supposed to call it that anymore, and I don't get why.
Call it Rona.
I
or
think
Coof.
I think it was hurting Corona sales early on, and so they were like,
Well,
"We gotta dump this term."
People
No.
are ignorant, though. If they literally thought, like,
Corona beer.
People were that stupid, though.
I know.
They were
but
there at the beginning.
people
But, I
were.
mean, whoever brews Corona, they leaned into it
Oh yeah, but
because it was funny.
it
But
was funny.
no, going to the forest, I mean, you want to talk about a forest with a supernatural tinge to it?
Wait,
got-
this is going to be in Japan, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the Ogigahara.
Yeah,
Wait a second.
It's the suicide forest.
Yeah, okay.
yeah.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, why do
Is
so...
that
Is it...
We
supernatural?
have brought
Or-
this up twice already
Oh,
in
have
this
you?
episode. Yeah,
Yeah.
That'd be a good one to do.
it's a whole episode on its
Yeah,
own.
I mean,
it's
they make movies about it. They got stories about it. It, like, for some reason, it's how many people you get a year? I think, what is their number? Like 100 people a year?
You know what the number one suicide spot in the entire world is, though?
Eiffel Tower.
Nope,
No.
the Golden Gate Bridge.
Well, yeah.
That
It's the
makes
easiest
sense.
one.
It's not that easy.
Just yeet yourself into the
Yeah, you're just...
Oh yeah, but like
the
the
bay.
largest in the world. Like, I mean, I get it. Living in San Francisco would suck, but I mean,
It's easily accessible. If the shock doesn't get you, the great whites will. I mean, I'd rather die from, like, jumping onto one of the concrete, like, slabs for the leg or something. At least that's done and over with.
I mean, the
Brian has
water
thought
from
about
that
this
height
a
would
lot.
probably be done and over with too.
No, if I was going to do it, I'd wait for a ship to start coming under and I'd try to get, like, down the smokestack.
No one knows he's there. For years, they find his mummified corpse inside the smokestack.
It's either I want to be in the smokestack or I want to hit right off the window.
You gotta Alecia Lamb. Like,
That's
do
what
a
I
bunch
was
of weird
thinking.
movements on the bridge and stuff, and then jump off into a smokestack, and the boat will be somewhere else when they finally find you, and they'll be like, "How did this guy get here?" And then they'll see this weird security footage of you, like, on the bridge doing weird movements.
I'll just do a bunch of interpretive. No, it's like I would want to aim for a smokestack, or I want to land on an aircraft carrier, or I want to hit right on the windows of the bridge of a cruise liner or something.
Yeah, you at least want to win your suicide.
Yeah. It's like I jumped
Give me
off.
this one last glory.
he wants to win his suicide
You'll never
because
know
he's
if you
lost his
actually
entire
did
life.
it.
No, you'll never know, but I would just hope that it's like I want to hit the like. There's a lot of windows on the front of a cruise ship, but it's like I want to hit the bridge. Like I want to be the bug on the window. Like I want to just. Like, I want to come, like, halfway through the window.
Like, what the hell?
He looks like one of those Garfield dolls with the suction cups. Just
Like, I want it to be bad. It's like, if I
When
can
I
win
kill myself, I want to blast myself out of a cannon and hit the front windshield of a plane.
maybe. Who knows? But no, back to what I was saying about, like, the suicide force. It's like, why, it's like, there's, like, even now, the superstition there is so, like, I don't know if relevant's the good word, but it's so prevalent that, like, they have these rituals that if you find a body that you're supposed to, like, be with, it's like if you find a body during the day, you're supposed to stay with it in this enclosed room until the next sunrise, and they have. I read it once.
I wonder if it's almost like this idea that if you find a body and you leave it, it may never be found again.
I don't.
Just because of how dense that forest is, and
I don't
how large
know.
it is.
I just remember.
But
reading,
I almost wonder.
There's all kinds of these weird, like ritualistic kind of thing. Not like bad, but like Japanese, like rituals that like if you find the body, treat it with respect. Don't move it. But stay with it and call the authorities to your location.
Oh, you mean
That seems
don't
pretty
use it as your
standard.
thumbnail for your YouTube video?
Yeah, don't do that. But there's all the like. I was just reading it once. I'm like, this is really like. Could I stay in a room with a dead body all night? You're not supposed to sleep. You're supposed to be
after
awake.
I die,
and
you'll be
you're
able
supposed
to pay to do that.
You're supposed to be able. You're like. I
That's-
think you were supposed to watch the body
That's
through the
what
night.
drives people to go back there and kill themselves because they have to sit with a body for a full night.
Well, I almost wonder. We talked about tulpas like a month ago. What if this is because there is so much legend and lore built up around this place?
That if you're going to kill yourself, go do it there. You might
Yeah.
as well. Yeah,
It's become
I think
a
that is
shared
what happened.
mindset.
Mm-hmm. And like with the Golden Gate Bridge, it's like, I don't know how to say it, but it's like a grand event. It's dramatic.
It almost
to
seems like a
because many other people have
just
done
like
it
an
before.
opportunity, right?
Yeah.
Like
It'll get a lot
how
of
many
news
things can you
coverage
jump
because
off
it's
of?
a area that a lot of people go. Like it's a tourist attraction. So
Oh, and they had suicide nets added to New York Empire State Building, right? When you go up to the observation table, tower.
I think they can completely.
I don't know. The only
enclose
suicides
top
I
of
know
that.
about are the ones in China where they make the iPhones.
Foxconn.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have suicide nets in Foxconn.
You're
Yeah.
gonna get the podcast sued for.
Oh, sorry. All hail China, our superior lords and great leaders.
No, I mean, like you hear it. It's always known as the suicide forest, but it's like when you think it's like we don't live in Japan, we don't live in the region that forest is. But I gotta wonder. It's like how many people, like, there's got to be more to this forest than just the suicide area. So it's like, is this?
Well,
do
isn't there a
people-
temple there
I don't
too?
think there's a specific suicide area. I think it's just the entire forest generally.
Well, I don't know. I would have to assume.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's how it would be. But I gotta assume there's more forest around that with how that area is density wise.
Oh yeah, because people
It's like
go
there's-
there just to hike and explore it. I mean,
Yeah,
it's at
it's
the
like
base
how
of.
many people go missing in
Fuji.
this forest that are just like, oh, they must have committed suicide. It's like, did they or did something happen?
Well, that's the thing about a lot of these U.S. ones is it's like we don't really have a place in the U.S. that's like a national park that's like, well, that's where everybody kills themselves. These are not clearly suicides. These are mysterious and people are
That
disappearing.
and, like some of
and-
them, it's like okay, maybe yeah, but like especially the Dennis Martin one, like
That's just
I
a
don't
kid.
think the
And, like,
child,
how
the
did he
6-year-old, was going to
vanish?
go kill himself.
Yeah,
he probably
and you
didn't even
got-
know what,
That
like.
kid's got some fucking
Well,
problems.
and how does this kid vanish in a way that they have like Green Berets, the FBI, all these different things looking for him, and they don't find him?
Containment.
It's not like the Smoky Mountains are extremely rough and difficult terrain.
Well, she also mentioned. I think it was that story where they were very heavily armed, as if they
Yeah.
were expecting something.
Yeah.
And
That was
I'm pretty sure that I've read or we've watched or something other ones where
well. That
they've
was
come in and
with Helltown in Cuyahoga Valley. There were some residents who were fighting about the money they were getting for their property because it was an eminent domain purchase and stuff. Well, in order to get everything finally cleared out and start this process, they send in military heavily armed. And it's like, why? What were they expecting to encounter?
I mean, it's not like we've never seen them overly arm the military in a civilian area before.
Well, yeah, but
but to
just
force
kind of
out
weird in the
residents,
wilderness,
Yeah.
I mean, maybe they could have been using it as an exercise for all we know.
It could be kind of a little training exercise, but
There's a child missing, and hey, we can use this as an excuse to get in there with loaded sacks and do marches.
and there's also the possibility if they have military searching for a child in a national park, if this child has been kidnapped, well, they may need to use lethal force to get the child back. So
Because
it
who-
would be
Like,
armed,
yeah.
and the way that you arm the military is going to be different than your local police officer, so it would seem excessive. but
Yeah, I guess it would
just normal for
fall
them.
to what? I mean, what branch is in charge of enforcing law in a national park?
well, the National Park Service.
The park rangers?
Yeah, they're the first line of like law enforcement within a national park, but beyond that, it'd be federal.
Well, that, I mean, you got to think about it. I mean, it's the Smoky Mountains still. There's bears, there's boars, there's whatever other dangerous animal there are. So
It
I
might
mean,
be too far north for boars, though.
I think I had read something somewhere about bear attacks,
Bears,
though.
definitely.
That, like, yeah, there's bear attacks, but they're very rare.
Well,
very
one of the
few.
things I was thinking about with that, like as far as the bears go, because like when you're in the Smoky Mountains, they're like, yeah, just ignore the bears.
it's
They
just
won't bother
yeah, it's just
you,
black
you know?
bears, isn't it? It's the
Yeah,
Smoky
they're just little black bears. But
Okay.
the thing I was
Yeah.
thinking about is like a few years back when they had those wildfires in the Smoky Mountains National Park. I would bet that bear attacks became more common recently after that because a lot of their food supply was burned up or gone and they were desperate to eat and may have attacked the stray hiker here and there. So, I mean, I don't know
It would
if
have
there was
forced them
any
out of their
event-
habitat.
Yeah, I don't know if there was any event like that around the time Dennis Martin disappeared, but a small child would be easy prey for a starving bear.
Yeah, that's, yeah.
You know, if there was something
Possible.
going on to mess with their food supply, they could have just taken and eaten a kid.
Yeah.
Underwear are elastic and hard to chew, so that could have been left behind.
Well, that and
But they would have
where
had
the
bloody underwear.
I know. That's
You
the
know, so
thing.
that's
It's
really
like,
weird.
you know, these ones that go missing, vanish without a trace. It's like, how? What? Like,
Well,
you'd
how
think
old was
there'd be
this kid?
something.
9.
I think he was 6.
I thought you said
So
9.
if he was 6 and they found
He was
little
6.
boy's underwear, the family would have very easily been able to confirm, yes, those were the underwear he was
well,
wearing.
she said
Yeah.
that they weren't.
Yeah, and the mom said that they weren't.
So they weren't even his underwear they found. So like some other kid lost underwear or went missing that
Yeah, how did that not spawn another investigation into whose underwear is this?
I mean,
that's weird.
but yeah, I don't know. It's just, and like one of them, I don't think it was in a national park though. It was just about old man that went missing somewhere, maybe up in Michigan.
The one that was on the hunting trip?
Yeah,
That was Pennsylvania. But it was also like kind of in the northern part of the Appalachians, which the Appalachian Mountains are.
which like him, he vanished. They couldn't find anything, and I mean, he was with a group of guys, and they were spaced just a little bit apart, and
And there was that weird noise.
yeah, they.
So they're all
remember
on this
hearing
hunting
the
trip
noise.
and they're all sitting there and they hear this weird, unnatural noise. They all heard it. And they're all like in different parts of this forest, spaced out, like scouting and hunting and
And
stuff.
they said they couldn't even really like recreate it. They wouldn't
said
even
it
know.
sounded like a, almost like a, what was it? It was like a rippling, tearing noise. And they all heard it. And then there was like this big storm that moved into the area. This old guy just vanished. And this old guy, he was like a former Army Ranger or something. Like he was not, a helpless old man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just strange.
Yeah,
Just
and the
makes you
Appalachian
wonder.
Mountains have more sightings of cryptids than anywhere in the world.
Yeah, not surprised. They have like 8 that live in that area. I mean, you can assume that a lot of them are the same thing.
Big.
It's like they got Wendigos, they got Bigfoot, they got the Jersey Devil. I don't remember
They
what the
got
one.
Bigfoot, they got the Grass Man, which is basically Bigfoot but just a little bigger. They got the Sheep Squatch, which is just Bigfoot with horns,
Yeah, they got all kinds of shit down the Appalachian Mountains.
Mhm. But a lot of it's probably just the
Mothman.
same things. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Mothman's technically in there.
No, I just always liked the idea of the Snatchers, or they
Just
get-
generally.
Yeah, I don't remember what the concept was of the ones that I like, but they just pretty much erase you. They're just these spiritual entities that take you to their side, just all in all, and then slowly they strip you over time. And like the process was like I don't remember. It was always different, but it slowly just rips out your soul from their side and.
I
The
need to
fuck?
check something. Go ahead. Continue.
Okay, they start ripping away your soul and leaving what was like attached to it at the time, That's why things will start showing up later or in weird spots. And that's just, they have you. And you can't get away from them. And then all your stuff is just slowly like, oh, we found a piece here. And then it's like, well, how the fuck did that get over there? How the fuck did that get way down there? Or 25 miles west?
One of the other things I've heard is that what if you just walk into another timeline? And, like, you just continue living your life. You don't know that anything
We had
ever
that in the Time
happened.
Traveler
But you
episode.
left another timeline behind where they don't know what happened to you.
Are you
But as
saying
far as you know, everything is the same.
you switch server regions in
Yeah.
the simulation
Exactly.
theory?
You just, go to another timeline where everything's the same for you. Nothing's different.
Can hang out with Mandela in a
And
different server.
in your previous one, you're missing. I don't know. It's
You
just weird.
You cross the regional server boundary.
Well,
They're
like,
switching
and there
you
was one
NA, so-
in this in that documentary we watched, Missing 411. There was another thing where he was up in like the Sierra Nevada range, and he was talking to this guy about like this little hunting spot that like these guys have been using since like the 50s, and it's like just a secret thing. Like this group of guys, they pass it down. You get to hunt there. It's just like the sweet spot. But they build like this shelter out of like heavy logs and stuff that like at night they just lock themselves up in it because they hear all kinds of crazy noises. These guys have like seen like weird things like ribbons of light moving through the air and like Bigfoot stuff, alien stuff. Like
I don't think that one was on Missing 411. That was
thought
different
it
show
was.
we watched.
I'm pretty sure that was on Missing 411.
What was that show you were watching? I can't remember.
Oh no,
I'm
not
just
that one,
gonna-
because that one had the dramatizations. This was Missing 411.
Was it?
Yeah, because he was talking about all the people that had disappeared at this one lookout point in the Sierra Nevada mountains.
Okay.
And, he was talking to these hunters that have just seen all these weird things out there.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I've seen this.
Maybe.
And a couple other things like that.
Yeah, Missing 411,
There's a bunch
The
of
Hunted
books.
was the one we watched. It was all about hunters.
But yeah, there's some.
Yeah, this guy's written a bunch of books about it, but he just goes all around collecting these missing persons stories in national parks, and it's really weird.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, yeah, there are times where people will just go and disappear on their own accord. But then I've seen so many missing person cases in forests and just in general where it's like you gotta look at it and go, he probably got murdered.
Well, the weird
By
ones
who,
too
though?
is almost
Or
all
what?
of them are like they'll be with a group of people, and then for whatever reason, this person will go off on their own for a minute to go do something, and then they're just never seen again. They're not heard, nothing.
The best rule is never separate in the forest.
We're gonna have a fun camping trip.
Yeah, it's how we're going to replace Brian with Jesse.
Because he'll vanish. He'll just walk off and vanish
Oh, I'll show back up.
in our dreams.
Yeah, I'll be telling you where I am.
But
John, I fell in this pit. Can you please come rescue me? Man, I had such a terrible nightmare about Brian.
What's funny is you already said you're going to dig a punji pit.
I'm not that stupid. I'm not going to sharpen a bunch of sticks. I'll dig a hole or a trench.
yeah, I mean we're gonna know that area and have it pretty well scouted out. So I mean,
Yeah, I
no one's
can't
gonna
wait.
go vanishing.
I like the idea that we're going to scout this area. It's like I'm going to be able to see my truck from this area.
Oh no, you don't want to. We're not gonna be that close to that. We're gonna get out so that we can't see vehicles and houses.
You know what's going to
and
happen?
He wants to make me suffer by making me walk as far as I can. In
Oh
the
no,
woods.
I'm just
stuff.
imagining.
Yeah, we've got a
what's-
plan for that. We're gonna pick out ahead of time, like by like looking at the satellite map, 3 possible camping locations, and we're gonna scout all of them, and then we'll vote on which one we actually camp on.
I just like that idea.
It's gonna be a lot of hiking.
I'm going to give up in the night because I don't have anything. Like, I'm going to come as unprepared as I was for my episode.
Uh huh.
And I'm just going to walk back to my truck and sleep.
No,
in the
that's why
back
we're
seat.
all going in one vehicle, so that we only leave if everyone's in agreement.
No.
How do you enforce that if it's one person's vehicle?
It's my vehicle.
Oh, no, it's not. I don't trust you for a fucking second not to leave one of us out there.
No, I won't leave anybody.
No, I'm going to drive my truck.
Okay.
I'm going to drive my truck out there.
But
Brian's just gonna ruin the whole
I mean,
thing. He's gonna sleep in his truck.
whoever leaves in the middle of the night or goes and sleeps in a vehicle, they're the definite loser of the whole trip. You know what I mean? But
Yeah, my ass is asleep.
yeah, we'll take the 2 trucks out there. Just put 2 people in each truck for maximum comfort. And
Yeah. I'm gonna say we need a back seat.
we'll get out there and get camping.
Camping. Hopefully one of us goes missing. That way we have a tale to tell.
Well, then we have an adventure and multiple nights to camp because we gotta find him.
Where's Brian? Brian dug a hole and then fell in that hole. And then we covered it with sticks and leaves so we could pretend to look for him.
We know where he is, but we want him to be quiet for now so we can have the adventure of looking for him.
With the search party. And people are all worried.
We find you in 5 minutes and we're like, Brian, just be quiet for a little bit. We're gonna go look for you.
Shh,
You
sleep
can
now.
fake record it. We've lost Brian. It's been 2 days.
Blair
Yeah.
Witch that shit.
Well, it's gonna be a fun episode of the podcast.
So scared right now.
We're gonna do this really
so
primitive
scared.
camping trip, and then afterwards we're gonna do an episode just about the adventure.
My ass. We get to load a bag.
That's it. No tents allowed. You just get to bring a bag, and we're gonna get our own food.
Oh yeah.
You're gonna be eating
All
squirrels,
all
boy.
the food in my bag. I'm gonna hunt that food down.
No, the whole point is that
He's got it hanging from a
Only bring-
sausages hanging in the forest like Freddy got fingered.
yeah, only bring food that is in case of necessity. Like if we can't
I'm gonna
manage to find or get any food,
I'm gonna fry me up some
then we'll eat our food.
good
that
old
we brought.
peach rings on
Yeah.
the fire.
But we are quite a ways into this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do we want to try and wrap this up?
I don't know. Do we?
What's Brian's famous line? And on that note, it's time to end. Good night.
No, that's Jeremy Clarkson's
I know.
famous line. I love that one. There was a few episodes ago that Jesse said, "Have a good night, everybody," and Brian was like, "What? How dare you? Have a good night, everybody."
Yeah. I had a fucking stroke on that one.
Same thing.
Let's see if, now that we've been saying it wrong, let's see if he gets it right. Brian?
Fuck yourself.
Nope, he doesn't get it right. we managed to break him.
Break me? I didn't know we were trying. I'll get my stick. Go for my ankles.
What?
Will you just say the fucking line so I can end the recording?
Brian? Do the roar.
What?
Do the roar.
Do the
He does look like Shrek.
Who the fuck do I look like? Apparently
Everybody.
everybody. Have fun, everybody.